You can get to work with other disciplines, and for lighting it really ties in with design and cameras as well, because you need to convey certain things, and sometimes, most times, the lighting can't do that by itself.
Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of She Plays Games. I'm your host Lauren, and on my show I have a chat with women of many different roles within the games industry, some of which don't always get their time in the spotlight. Through this podcast, my goal is to give visibility to the many women who already have successful careers in the video games industry, with the hope of making women around the world realize that there's a place for them too. Now, this show wouldn't be where it is without support, so I'd like to thank Robin Milton, Gray, Grace Kim, Andrea Blythe, Priscilla, Lucas, Matthias Diamantino, itchjosh.jpg, and Jean Leggett for choosing to support the show on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show, please head over to patreon.com/sheplaysgames for more information. Today's episode is a Supermassive Games special. We're featuring 4 of the women who worked on their latest title, The Quarry. Mara Cerreti, lighting artist, Rose Kenny, narrative designer, Selen Ceri, producer, and Thea Chetcuti, designer. In this episode, we discuss the evolution of roles needed to make a game like The Quarry, how Supermassive is tackling accessibility, and our favorite characters. This is episode 88 of She Plays Games. Hi everyone, and welcome to SPG. So amazing to meet all of you. If you all want to introduce yourselves, we'll start with Mara. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, I'm Mara Cerreti, and I'm a junior lighting artist at Supermassive Games.
My name's Thea, and I'm a game designer at Supermassive Games.
Cool, and I'm Selen Ceri. I'm a producer at the Quarry at Supermassive Games.
And hi, I'm Rose, and I'm a narrative designer at Supermassive.
It's so amazing to meet you all and get to chat with you all. Such an amazing experience, such an amazing thing to be a part of this kind of game. Because honestly, Until Dawn is still spoken about today as just such a fantastic starting point of this interesting connection between like Hollywood and the games industry. And to see The Quarry now, which has a lot of the similar sort of feelings and emotions as Until Dawn did back in the day, it just must have been so incredible to see. So I just wanted to know, what was it like when you first learned that you were working on The Quarry?
Yeah, I think it was just extremely excited and happy knowing that it was a very interesting project to be a part of. I joined a bit later in the process, and there was already so much that had been done, and you could tell that it's a project that everyone really cared about. So it was just really fun to be a part of something like that, because like you were saying, Until Dawn was one of the games that I played probably 5 or 6 times to try and get all the different endings. And yeah, I think I was just like ecstatic to play and be able to like work in a game like that.
Oh, completely. Was it your first like horror game experience? Because I know for me it was like my first horror game experience.
Like working in a horror game was like probably the first horror game that I really tapped into lighting, and it was really amazing. It's definitely a big experience for me to be working on something like that.
I also played Until Dawn, so to have worked on its spiritual successor it was so awesome, and it was so interesting to see how far the technology had come as well since Until Dawn, like in terms of graphics, capturing performance and data. It was also cool to have been a part of that, and obviously get to work with some incredible like Hollywood talent. Yeah, that was definitely a highlight for me.
Yeah, honestly, talk about talent.
So I joined about 3.5 years ago. So when I first joined, it was very early on, and it was the project that I ended up working at, like my very first project.
Oh my goodness!
At that time, it was like a concept phase, but I remember like seeing really cool things, like concept art and like a little bit of story coming together. And I remember being so excited, and I was like, I can't believe we got this lucky. And like, just thinking like that. And I think we're all big fans of Until Dawn, so it felt like a massive thing to be able to be a part of this game.
Yeah, it's like that whole like realization process of just, oh my God, I'm actually working on this. Was Until Dawn like one of the reasons why you decided to go to Supermassive?
Yeah, it was for me, yeah. And then it was so difficult to keep it to myself. I couldn't tell anyone about it.
I first met you at the Limit Break mentorship closing drinks, didn't I? And I was just like, so what you working on? You can't say, that's okay. That's great then. And then how about you, Rose?
Yeah, I was just super excited because I came on quite late in the project. So yeah, on my first day, I was kind of shown the prototype trailer. And just to see all of those famous faces. I'm a massive Ted Raimi fan, so when I saw him, I was like, oh my God.
We had something really cool, actually. And early on in the project, we had a video by him, put it together and narrated by him as well about the lore and like how things could happen. And like watching that, I think for all of us, was like, this just sounds amazing, you know? And then we were really into it like after watching that.
Oh, that's so cool. And lore just makes such a big difference when it comes to games, isn't it? Like having a good lore is so integral, at least for me, definitely. So this is a very important question. Which of the characters do you identify with the most and why? We'll start with you, Thea, if that's okay.
With me, I don't know if this is going to be really disappointing, but there's not really like that one person that I mean, if I had to choose, I would say maybe Abby, because she's the more like shy, introverted, like arty kind of person, and I can relate to that to some degree. Probably her. I really aspire to be like Caitlin. I love how badass she is. She gives me like older sister vibes, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
I want her to be my older sister. I know
all together.
I guess
you don't know how the same I feel. Caitlin is just awesome. She's so cool. But yeah, how about you?
The game, which is a really good thing. Kudos to the design team and the direction and lore and writing. Like Abby, I do relate some things about being shy, but also being like kind of determined what you want to do. And Emma being quite, I don't know what
she's very charismatic.
Yeah, she's so aware of everything about herself and like surroundings, relationships and things. So you can pick up like cool things when she talks. Actually, she's like, oh, she knows what she's doing. She's absolutely fine with it. So
yeah, she's sure in herself, which is always admirable.
Yeah.
Then how about you, Rose, being part of the narrative?
Like I said, I did come on quite late onto this project, so those characters were fully formed when I joined. Girl, I think like Caitlin and Laura is so cool. She, quite like it if I was like them, but I'm probably more like Bobby. Like Selen said, there's parts of all the characters which I think you can relate to. I mean, if you're feeling a little bit shy one day, you might feel like more like Abby. If you're feeling like you've woken up and you're a badass cool girl today, Emma, you're gonna take off.
But I think that's what creates the drama, isn't it? Like when you think about creating characters and creating like obstacles for them, having those differences in how their personalities interact with each other, it just always makes for fireworks, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if everyone was the same character, it wouldn't be a very interesting game.
All introverts.
Yeah.
Nobody talks to each other at the fire pit.
Yeah. No
Yeah. To be fair, that would be me. It's just me duplicated a bunch of times. Oh, that's so good. But yeah, and then how about you, Mara?
I think I would really aspire to be like Laura. She's like you were saying, Laura, she's the final girl. She gets things done. She wants to do the right thing. But yeah, I think I also see myself a lot in Ryan, which he's a little bit more not closed up, but he's a bit more uncertain. But that's the great thing about this duo. Like I really enjoyed seeing them on screen together. It was like really fun, and all of them have aspects that are just really fantastic about them, makes them quite unique.
Oh, completely. But I love that you brought up Laura, because honestly, like for me, I just really loved Max like in the beginning of the game, because I just felt like he's just so sweet.
It just happens to him, like
I know.
It's so bad for him. I love Max as well.
He's just like, does Hackett actually know that we're coming? And no. Why? It's just everything just happens to him. But yeah, I think we're pretty unanimous on the Caitlin front. Caitlin is is a bad beat.
Brought up as well the prologue, like such talented actor and actress, and she won. They did an amazing job, and they carried it.
Yeah, they really did. They really did. And I think that's like the great thing about these games as well, because Until Dawn obviously had it as well. And it really was a great way to start off the game. It's fantastic to see like such a diversity of roles as well. How do you feel about how the games industry is evolving with the way of like diversity of roles? Because obviously, like here today, we have a lighting designer, we have narrative designer, producer. There's so many different ways in which people can get involved in the games industry and with supermassive games in general. So how do you feel about how things have evolved from like a job role perspective? We'll start with you, Selen.
Yeah, I'll take this. The industry is evolving, and it's amazing to see how far it's going, and we keep pushing boundaries and everything. But I think the skill sets of people that like are in the industry is also evolving. We are specializing a bit more on what we're really good at, and like we have the chance to do that, which is really cool. So nowadays, there are technical artists, more like technical designer, and there's so many other like lighting and direction of cinematography. I think is like a big thing. We have someone in our studio, and he's amazing. Maya could concur. So yeah, it's like having these skills and abilities that you can really kind of focus on and be better at it, and then that you'll always gonna be you'll be fine in the industry. And it's quite important that people do what they love and specialize in it, and there's like more and more roles coming up like that.
Absolutely. Do you have anything to add, Rose?
Yeah, I was just thinking when you're talking then, Selen, it does give people an opportunity who are really passionate about their discipline, but not necessarily with a background in game, but just passion for their own craft. And then they can get into gaming and they can get into that industry. And I suppose the more diverse the people are who are working on the game, the better the game is going to be in the end. So it's a snowball effect. It's all feeding into itself.
It's great to see all these opportunities being created. And I feel like when you're in the industry itself, you're exposed to so many different disciplines and skills that you find yourself sometimes being thrown into something completely new, and you find like a new passion. So for instance, I can talk from like my own experience on this project. I got involved in the camera work, even though I'm primarily a designer. I got to do some camera stuff on this project as well. And I really love it. I found that I really liked it. And if I hadn't been exposed to that and haven't been given the opportunity to do that, I would have never known. I've always had a keen interest, but I've never actually thought this is something that I could do, I could pursue. Am I good at it? Who knows? So I think it's really cool to be exposed to all these things and just, take opportunities like that.
Designer, so it's like character, camera, and one more thing which I don't know what it is. I can't remember. So yeah, things like that popping up, which is quite cool.
Yeah. No, that sounds amazing. That's the thing, right? That's such a testament to Supermassive Games as a studio to be allowed to explore these types of opportunities. There's so many times where you feel confined to where you are, and that kind of opportunity it helps you to grow as a person, doesn't it? Because I don't think you ever fully truly know until you try things or are allowed to try things what you're actually good at or what you actually enjoy fully doing. So that's incredible that you had that opportunity, Thea.
Yeah, no, I'm really grateful for Supermassive for that. Always will be.
Yeah, completely. And then with the lighting, I think like the lighting has just leveled up immensely from Until Dawn, right? Like
it's been crazy. It's like Thea was saying, you can get to work with other disciplines, and for lighting, it really ties in with design and cameras as well, because you need to convey certain things, and sometimes, most time, the lighting can't do that by itself, and it needs to be everyone that is extremely good in their own discipline to get together and try to get the best shots that we possibly can. Yeah, it was extremely fun to learn a bit more about cameras and design and how we can add lighting on top of that to make it just the best. Yeah, it's been really fun, and in general, the environments and the characters just look so great that polishing that on top with a bit of lighting just makes everything amazing.
It makes such a difference, that the work they did in lighting. In the end, it was like, wow, it's actually like coming together amazing.
Yeah, it completely like finishes off a scene. I feel like you go in and you'd be like, oh, this scene is great, but there's something missing. And then the lighting comes in, and you're like, okay, it all makes sense.
Yeah, it's a really great storyteller lighting. And that's like what I was thinking of asking you as well, Mark, because obviously like you came in from a course, didn't you, in lighting? Was your lighting course a bit more about like lighting for films, or was it lighting in general? And what do you feel like games can learn from use of lighting?
So the course that I did was fully just for game, but I think you can take a lot of great things in order to get a game to look as realistic as possible. For Quarry, we try to use a lot of realistic values, which sometimes is a bit difficult in Unreal, but it just makes such a difference when, obviously, as a horror game, the more realistic it is and the scarier it gets when you're playing it. So trying to play with those elements of realism was really fun, but the thing is that we had a bit of creative control and if we wanted to have a bit of stylized as well in it. It doesn't always have to be realistic to look good. Like we have a lot of close-up shots and they might be in an environment that's extremely dark, but we still want to see their emotions. So we, even if it's too dark, we add lights just to make it just a bit nicer and make sure that people catch those emotions of just little glimpse of motion capture that look extremely good. So it's just a big mix of, film. We try to aspire to be like that, but doing it in games is, I think, a lot better because we have so much control over what we want to make, if that makes sense.
Oh, completely. Yeah, full control over everything.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
good. It's so good. I can't imagine like shooting a scene back in the day and being like, "Oh, you can't see any of this person's face or
Absolutely.
emotion during this." Great. What do we do? One of the things I love about Supermassive is how accessible the games are. Like I know for my personal experience, I was explaining to my mother-in-law about the Quarry and saying about how it was a horror game, but even though it's a game, they have different modes. They have the movie mode in order to help hold your hand through it. And so you don't necessarily have to be a gamer in order to get the most out of the experience. And I just wanted to know, how do you feel about this type of accessibility moving forward? And have you had experiences talking about the Quarry to other people who maybe aren't necessarily gamers? We can start with you, Rose.
It's a really interesting development and a much needed one as well, because you're reaching a bigger audience. Say you're reaching on people who might be put off by the skill level involved. So yeah, it's kind of a development from that. And also I like the idea that you can choose these endings. So in the movie mode, you can choose like Gore Fest or kind of Everybody Lives. You might have someone who doesn't like gore, but they like horror because they are separate. You can have a horror that has absolutely no gore, and you can have a PG horror, and it's still scary. It's still got tension. So by creating those different types of films within the same game, you're opening people and giving them something that's within their own comfort levels as well, which is nice. So I think going forward, we'll just be pushing that more, to include everybody, basically.
Oh, I think that's incredible because there is some people who can't deal with gore, and should they not be allowed to have the same kind of experience of being able to experience stories just without all the blood and guts and stuff? Like that's incredible. That's an incredible way of doing it.
The nightmare-free version.
Yeah. Yes, completely valid. Completely valid. Because some people are just like werewolves and horror stories, but they just don't want to see somebody's face bashed in. Yeah. How about you?
Yeah, I think it's needed more and more. Like it's a win-win for everyone. It's accessible to a lot more people that want to play certain games but can't because of certain things. And then more people play a game. So I think it's absolutely necessary. And I agree with everything that Rose was saying. I couldn't put it in better words, to be honest.
And then, Thea and Selen, if you have you had any experiences trying to promote the Quarry to somebody who maybe isn't turned on by games completely yet?
My mom.
Aww.
Yeah, she's not a gamer whatsoever. I've tried many times to play games with her. The release on the game, she was super excited. She was like, I really want to play this game. And I was like, oh, you can, Mom. Because it's made for non-gamers, so she's very excited. Next time I visit, we're going to play it all together. I'm really looking forward to it because I get to show my parents what I've worked on, and everyone can have a fun time, no pressure, no intensity, because we tend to get quite intense as a family. You should see us playing Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we end up basically arguing. But anyway, I went off on a tangent there.
No, that's fine. That is incredible, right? That's something that I think is really necessary nowadays, because there is such a divide between kids and their parents about games, because they just think it's not for them. I was trying to explain it to my husband earlier, this whole idea that like people live in the age that they feel that they are, and so they don't feel like games are for them because they're not of the current generation. But it's like you are, and that is so incredible to hear that your mom is actually like really stoked about that. And I really hope that like those kind of things mark a change in how older generations view games moving forward.
Yeah, definitely. I think they are changing. I think many parents are now more on board with just games in general in the gaming industry, and they're becoming more understanding that yes, it is a viable career path, and it is, it's great.
Yeah.
Because I think before there was more of a stigma. I, for one, grew up with my parents not being too keen at first when I expressed an interest in making games, but they're now fully supportive. And yeah, it's so cool to be able to play something with them that I've worked on and hopefully make them proud.
Oh, you too. You're amazing. And then how about you, Selen?
Yeah, these guys already said so many good things. Like, this is at the end of the day, I think it's an interactive experience, right? So we just need more people to give a chance to try it, just like you were saying, because they don't know if they will like or not. They're trying to make the games as little punishing as possible. So we have QTs and things like that, button burst, but you can get through the game, and you just need to give it a chance. But at the same time, I understand some people still feel a little uncomfortable holding a controller. It's a little bit alien to them still. So having things like movie mode and director's chair really helped. And again, kudos to the design, UI, and code team. They've done a really good job with the access. It's really nice to see some reviews and praises in the media. Like, I don't have a direct experience, but yeah, reading those on my copy-pasting chain with the team has been amazing. So yeah.
Oh, that's so incredible. And then now we're at the last question of our little panel, which has been so great. And it's just, do you have any last bits of advice for somebody who's looking in and thinking of joining the games industry, maybe even Supermassive Games in the future? We can start with you, Mara, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think as long as you're passionate about what you do, the projects you're doing, and who you work with, and I think that's the best thing about it, is being passionate about what you do, and yeah, just making a great team with everyone and having a project that you're really proud of. Yeah, that's what I would say to someone, really.
That's great. And then how about you, Thea?
It's a great question. I would say do not get discouraged if there's at any point in your career where you feel like you're not doing as well as you should be doing, or you feel like you should be a lot further than you currently. You're on a path, you're figuring out what you want to do, what makes you happy, and just picking the right project to work on and the right studio to work on is just so important. I think sometimes that's overlooked. So yeah, just don't get discouraged, keep going. You will find a place that you feel at home as soon as you're there. Yeah, this is where I can flourish.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. And then Selen?
Totally everything, and then apply to the studio that you did some research on, like, their projects, how the people are inside the studio, and then go for it. Like, perseverance is really important. Like, it will happen if you're passionate enough and you want it enough. And there's a lot of steps in the right direction as well in terms of like different things happening in the studio. So yeah, join Supermassive, I guess. Yeah.
Join. Well, you do have some roles open at the moment as well. I just saw a community manager role went up the other day, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Tara and Cheryl are great. So yeah, come join.
Yeah. That's good. And then last but not least, you, Rose.
Yeah, I suppose my advice to women specifically joining the industry is to know your own value and be confident in your value and what you can bring to the games industry. There is this statistic that women have to, in general, fulfill 100% of the requirements in order to apply for a job, whereas I think it's less in general for men. Yeah, don't be put off if you don't meet all the requirements on a job application and put your best foot forward. And like Mara said, be passionate. Sometimes passion can make up for experience or something that you don't have. Yeah, and then also what Selen said about building your portfolio, if you can show that, then you can make up for other things that you might not have. So, basically don't be discouraged and know your own worth.
Oh, that's an incredible place to end on. And thank you all so much for coming on and sharing your experience. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for having us.
That's it for this episode of She Plays Games. Thank you so much to Supermassive for this opportunity, and to Mara, Rose, Selen, and Thea for coming on. For more information on any of these women, you can find their links in the show notes. Also, if you want more episodes of She Plays Games, please be sure to subscribe and follow me on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube by searching She Plays Games, and on Twitter and Instagram at She Plays Podcast. If you want to be on the show or want to nominate someone to come on the show, you can email me at lauren@sheplaysgames.co. See you all next time on She Plays Games.